Hi everyone. So a few years ago, a long time ago, I made a video where I lubed this Diane Zanchi and this Cube for You Type A speed cube with WD-40, and that was probably the most controversial video that I ever made. That video has a few hundred comments on it, with people saying, "Oh, this worked for me," and then other people saying that, "Oh, I ruined all my cubes with this." So anyway, so I kind of found that depending on the plastic, that will either kind of lube it, or it'll kind of soften up the plastic and lube it. But on these two cubes, it did not kill them, but apparently it kills other cubes. But anyways, today I'm going to be trying something a little less controversial, but still we have some potential here. So this is Jig-A-Loo, which I have used before in the past, and I know it doesn't kill your cubes, but my question is it better than your typical silicone lubricants? So what I'm going to do is I have these three relatively newer speed cubes of a newer design, because I use this on older cubes, on the ancient V cubes over there, and on some older kinds of speed cubes like the Type C2, which are once again ancient at this point. So these are some newer designs. So I have my Fangshi, the New Island Phoenix, and the Diane Zanchi. So these aren't necessarily the fastest that are out there, but they're up there, and these should give a good idea of what Jig-A-Loo can do. So currently they are all lubed with silicone lubricant, and they're all pretty fast, but my question is, can they be any faster? So before I lube these cubes, I just wanted to take a quick look at the can here. Some interesting things I see is that it says it contains no oil, grease, or wax. So in my experience, it's not really a wet kind of lubricant. I mean, it's wet when you first spray it out, but once it dries, it doesn't feel wet. It doesn't really get on your hands when you're holding the pieces or anything like that. So that's definitely something I notice. And it says it's ideal for blah 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 blah, most plastics and other stuff. So I guess we'll be finding out about those most plastics there, as we have three different cubes here, and different kinds of plastic, obviously. So I'm just gonna go ahead and spray these. Now, as you can see, I've disassembled all of them. I have cleaned all the pieces off, and I find that laying them out this way is the best way to do it. You can spray it on the inside of the cube, but I find if you take it apart, it yields the best results. And as we're trying to compete with silicone lubricants here, we want the best results. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray all of these. Getting a nice, pretty heavy coat on all these pieces. Make sure they all look kind of wet. And that looks pretty good. And I'll just put some squirts in the core of each, so we get it on all the plastic areas. And there we go. Okay, so everything's all sprayed up. On the left here we have the Fangshi, in the middle is the New Island Phoenix, and the right is the Zanchi. And something interesting I noticed is if you look at the Zanchi and the New Island pieces, they're all very shiny, and they're all pretty wet from the spray. But if we look over here closely at the Fangshi pieces, you can see they look kind of matte, and it looks like the Jig-A-Loo's kind of absorbed into the plastic. Now, I don't know if that's because the plastic is porous. If you guys have a Fangshi, you know how it kind of has that sandy feel, or at least had that sandy feel when you first got it. So it might be because of that, or it might be reacting differently with the plastic. Because when you lube with Jig-A-Loo, it kind of like melts the outside of the plastic, and then it eventually later hardens up. So anyways, just wanted to share that kind of a weird thing going on there with the Fangshi, but I'll come back in quite a few hours, maybe overnight, and put them back together and see how they do. Okay, so these cubes have been sitting overnight, and as you can see, the Fangshi still looks like it kind of absorbed the Jig-A-Loo. Once again, I don't know if that's because it's kind of porous with its plastic texture, and you can see the other two cubes look very glossy. Feeling the pieces, they don't really feel that slick, but we will see what happens once I put these back together. Okay, so I finally have all these cubes back together, and I've had an opportunity to play around with them a little bit, and I must say I'm quite impressed with the performance of Jig-A-Loo. So it was either just as fast as silicone lube, or actually even faster than what I had in here before. And the pattern I saw is that the less surface area there is in between the pieces of a cube, the better it performed in comparison to a silicone lubricant. So with the New Island Phoenix, there's a lot of surface area on the pieces that touch each other. So this is about on par with silicone lube. But with the Zanchi, where there's a little bit less surface area touching in between the pieces, it actually performed a little bit better than silicone lube. And then the Fangshi is just insane how fast this is. It is on the verge of uncontrollable. And when I started, it was actually pretty slow. It was almost as slow as this cube. So definitely a big thumbs up for Jig-A-Loo on the Fangshi. So like I said, I definitely would relate it to how much surface area, or surface area that touches in between the actual pieces and the mechanism, because like I said, this one's the slowest, this one's kind of in the middle, but definitely faster than silicone lube, and this one's way faster than silicone lube. As far as feel goes, it's definitely a little bit of a drier feel than silicone, but it's definitely not a slow feel either. Like on the Zanchi, if I used a lot of silicone, you kind of feel a little bit of an initial stick if I had silicone in here, but that is completely gone with the use of Jig-A-Loo. And it is very fast. So once again, it's a very dry feel. The Fangshi feels really dry. It felt dry from the start. If you have a Fangshi, you know this because it kind of has that sandpapery texture. You could probably hear that, and that feel is just kind of emphasized with Jig-A-Loo because, like I said, it kind of just melts and then rehardens the plastic with a kind of slick texture, and it doesn't really add any moisture or anything like that to the equation. So it definitely has a drier feel. But as far as performance, it is, in my experience with these three cubes, it's either on par or even better than silicone. And I would recommend it to you guys to use it with cubes that have a low amount of surface area between the pieces, or where the pieces actually touch, because that's where it seems to work the best. So anyways, I hope you guys found this interesting. If you have any other ideas for experiments or things like that that you want me to do, just put it in the comments, and thank you for watching.